Have you ever set big goals for yourself, and while you're traveling down the road to your eventual success, you start hitting certain roadblocks where you start asking yourself, who do I think I am? Do I even deserve this? Am I good enough for this? Thankfully, those voices, those negative pesky voices, have a name, and they're called impostor syndrome. Now in this video, we're going to cover what impostor syndrome is, why we suffer from it, and how it negatively affects our lives. And then I'm going to provide 5 action steps that we can start taking today to finally start beating this pesky impostor syndrome. So first of all, what is impostor syndrome? Impostor syndrome is when you doubt your accomplishments and your ability to achieve additional goals. In other words, you believe that you don't deserve or haven't truly earned your success or the potential success that you are aiming for. And as a result of that, if you've already achieved that success and you believe that you don't deserve it, you fear being exposed as a fraud or an imposter. Now, there's something really important to remember about imposter syndrome, and that is that it happens at all levels of success, no matter how competent or skilled the person is. In other words, regardless of whether that person actually has earned their accomplishments or actually deserves their accomplishments, people still feel it. So if you're feeling imposter syndrome, it doesn't mean that you don't deserve your accomplishments. It just means that you are suffering from imposter syndrome. Now, why do we suffer from this imposter syndrome in the first place? The first reason is that you can set unrealistic standards of perfection. Now, I recently made a video on perfectionism that you can check out, I think if you click right here, or I'll put down the link in the description below. So feel free to check that out if you want to delve deeper into the realms of perfectionism. Another reason that we can suffer from imposter syndrome is that we compare ourselves with others. And when we do this, we're always going to find somebody who's better, faster, stronger, has achieved a higher level of success than us. For that reason, we have to focus on competing with our potential, focusing on being better today than we were yesterday, and celebrating our achievements. More on that later when we get to the action steps. Another reason that we can suffer from imposter syndrome is due to what is called the attribution bias. The attribution bias states that we sometimes misattribute the real causes of our success. So in other words, we can incorrectly state that luck, chance, or help from other people is what led us to our success, when the reality of the situation could very well be that our skills and our work ethic is what led us to our success. But when we suffer from attribution bias, we can misattribute the real causes of our success. And when we do that, and when we misattribute it in a negative way, we end up suffering from imposter syndrome. Another reason we can suffer from imposter syndrome is due to past experiences and stereotypes. So for example, if you were raised in a situation where nobody really encouraged you to do big things, nobody pushed you to do big things, and maybe even worse, if you ever brought up the idea of doing big things, and honestly, the word big is relative to that environment. If you ever brought up the idea of doing things that were more than the people around you were doing and you were shut down for it, that can create certain limiting beliefs in your own brain. And so when you grow up and you end up trying more things than those people ended up trying, and you end up achieving them, you can feel like an imposter because you still have those people's voices inside of your head telling you that that's not really what you deserve, that you're never going to get that, and so on and so forth. Another reason for this is societal stereotypes. If you feel like society is constantly telling you that someone like you can do things like this, when you actually do them, you can feel feelings of imposter syndrome. We'll talk about how to battle this more when we get to the action steps at the end of the video. And finally, a last reason that we can suffer from imposter syndrome is if we're going through a transition period in our lives. A transition period can be getting a new job, getting a promotion, getting married, buying a new house, having a kid. Now all of a sudden you're a parent. Oh my God, I don't even know if I can be a parent. These transition periods can make us feel like an imposter because, quite frankly, we haven't been there before. We've never had that job. We've never had that spouse. We've never had that house. We've never been a parent. We're doing this for the first time. So it's natural that we're going to feel like an imposter for a little bit. And the trick is to just let time catch up, let your mind catch up to where you finally can say confidently, no, this is who I am. This is what's going down. This is how it is at this moment in time. All right, so now that we've gone over why we suffer from imposter syndrome, it's time to get into the action steps that we can take to start beating this imposter syndrome. The first thing that we can do, and I say this in a lot of my videos, is just to surround yourself with positive people. Nothing will improve the quality of your life more than surrounding yourself with positive people and removing the negative people from your life. especially if you suffer from imposter syndrome. If you suffer from imposter syndrome, that means that you have negative voices inside of your head telling you that you're not good enough, that you can't do it, who do you think you are, etc. And when you have negative voices inside of your head, the worst thing that you can have is negative voices outside of your head. And the best thing that you can have is positive voices outside of your head to battle those negative voices when they come up. Action step number 2 is to celebrate your achievements. If you suffer from imposter syndrome and you feel like you haven't earned your accomplishments, when you have those accomplishments, you're going to reject celebrating those accomplishments. But whenever you feel that way, just think about, what if one of your friends had accomplished the thing that you just accomplished? Would you shut it down the way that you're shutting it down now when you're accomplishing it? Of course not. You wouldn't, because that would be mean. So why would you be mean to yourself? It's important to be your own best friend and pretend like it's somebody else that achieved that thing and go, oh my God, this is a great achievement. Congratulations. And if you're having trouble doing that, then again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, surrounding yourself with positive people. If you're having trouble celebrating your achievements, then share them with a friend, because if they're truly a friend, then they're going to celebrate it for you. And then once they're celebrating it in front of you, then that starts to rub off, and then it makes it easier for you to celebrate your achievements. Action step number 3 is to compete with your potential. Now, we already talked a little bit about this before. Comparing yourself with others is not the way to go. It is going to lead to feelings of imposter syndrome, because you are always going to be able to compare yourself with somebody that is doing better than you, that is faster than you, stronger than you, achieved a higher level of success. And so what we want to do is to compete with our potential. Focus on how we can be better today than we were yesterday. One of my favorite quotes is, comparison is the thief of joy. And the person that is credited with that saying is Teddy Roosevelt, who is ironically also the person that is credited with another one of my favorite quotes, which is much longer, called Man in the Arena, and which I will read right now because I think it is just a beautiful, beautiful quote. The quote goes, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Again, that quote is called Man in the Arena, if you want to check it out. A fourth thing that is really important if we are going to battle imposter syndrome successfully is to practice self-compassion. Don't beat yourself up. Don't believe the voices that are telling you you're not good enough for this, you don't deserve this, you haven't achieved this, who do you think you are? Talk to a friend, consume positive content online, remove the negative content, and focus on getting better today than you were yesterday. And if you trip and you fall, have self-compassion, show yourself grace, get up and do it again. Just because you fail doesn't mean that you don't deserve the things that you were striving for, the things that you have achieved. It just means that you failed right now. And there's nobody that achieved anything great without failing a million times. And finally, the last thing that you can do to beat imposter syndrome is to focus on a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. I recently made a video on this very concept. You can check it out right here. And if you enjoy this kind of content and want to consume more of it, feel free to click the link below to subscribe to my email newsletter, where you will get content like this every Monday via email to get you started for the week. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.